Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for stopping by to tune into my channel here. I'm Monica, the Creative Beast, and I thought I would share one of my really early attempts at bookbinding. I made this book for a class project when I was back in junior college, and that was back in the 90s. I think I must be dating myself with that reference. But I had a really fun geography teacher. He allowed people to do really fun different things. And for the class project, we got paired up. And I was paired up with somebody who was actually blind. So I went out to do the field work, and my partner did a lot of the research. And while I was doing field work, I was taking photographs, and I decided to make a book instead of a great big poster board. So it was easier for me to port around. So this is like my first attempt at a stab stitch book, and I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like now. Yay! Here it is. My little hand-bound book, the Sepulveda Dam Adventure Storybook. This is a sort of stab stitching because it's a hand-stitched spine. I found these instructions in a Martha Stewart magazine. And what it really is just me kind of lacing back and forth through the holes punched. And I made a little line here to make it easier for me to open the book. Because stab stitch books, when they're made like this, they're not always easy to open unless you make this little crease here. And the assignment was for researching the LA River, and I live in the San Fernando Valley, and I've lived pretty close to the Sepulveda Dam. I was living in Van Nuys at the time. I'm now living in Encino, so I'm still close to the Sepulveda Dam, slightly closer than when I was living in Van Nuys, and I'm also living on the other side of the dam. And I went climbing around to get a few shots, and yes, this is like actual film that I've was actually printed at the camera shop. So I used an old-fashioned 35mm camera and took pictures, and I found a way to climb on top of the dam bridge, which technically was not accessible to the public, but I did it anyway. So I could get this image, and I really loved it because you could see this picture right here. Let's see if we can get in. You know, you can see right here this sign over the door for this Sepulveda Dam. I'm not sure exactly what goes on in here, but that's part of the waterworks for keeping water from over flooding. The Sepulveda Dam is part of a history of Los Angeles. Back in the 30s, we've had floods here in Los Angeles because most of Los Angeles is actually a floodplain. And there were some really bad floods in the mid-30s, so the Army Corps of Engineers came in to start figuring out a way to channel all of this water whenever we get rain so that it would help to keep from flooding the city. And the Sepulveda Dam is part of that. So this is the Sepulveda Dam Adventure Storybook using old photos from 35mm camera. I used a map of the Sepulveda Dam Recreational Center. And this is the LA River that kind of runs through the control flood basin. This is some green area. Let's see, what else is here? So that's Victory Boulevard. This is the Ventura Freeway. This is, I believe, Burbank Boulevard. And this actually does get really flooded sometimes when it rains really heavily. So a section of Burbank Boulevard has to be shut off. And I put a red line around here because this was the area that I was actually exploring for this assignment. So that's a map of the LA River. Hey, it's a selfie. Before there was ever a selfie. Me, that's me. And the M Square is a nickname that my geography teacher gave me because my name is Monica, last name Moran. I have no middle name, so he called me M Squared. And since I was kind of climbing around the bridge where I wasn't supposed to, I just figured I was sort of like a secret agent. Secret Agent M Square is ready for an adventure. And I made my hat, made my little beret with an awesome vintage button there. Oh my goodness, look at this photo. I was young. And the day was lovely. Look at that blue sky. We have a lot of smog around here, so there it is. So, Secret Agent M Square is ready for an adventure. The Sepulveda Dam. And this is the building that houses all sorts of equipment for controlling and measuring the water that gets collected during a major storm. So as you see, that's what this building is. I couldn't remember, but I should have known it would be in here. And that's part of the LA Army Corps of Engineers and the work that they do to help keep Los Angeles from flooding and trying to gauge the water that we get when it actually does rain. So you see, constructed by U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in 1942. So it was not quite 10 years from the really bad floods of the 30s. I think it might have been 1934 that this structure was completed. The dam itself was constructed in 1941 to 1942 by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers after damaging floods hit the San Fernando Valley in okay, so it was 1938. I don't always get those dates right, but that's when it happened. And I think, okay, so I think it was maybe 34 people lost their lives in the flood of 1938, and that's probably why I get confused with the dates. But yeah, so there's a plaque commemorating the building. This is down in the basin itself. This is the bridgeway. On the other side of this section here, there's sometimes a green area, and people will often do some filming there from time to time. So it's pretty wide and pretty high. All in all, a most impressive structure. And it really is pretty impressive. I mean, I'm probably not quite up to that little dot right there if I were standing next to it. This is a pretty big structure. Okay. Here's the river flowing east. Look carefully and you can see a measuring stick. So if I bring this in here, you can see the red line, and that white line that it's pointing to, that's where they measure how much water comes in during a storm. Okay. And so yeah, that's facing east, and this over here is to the west. And in this direction is north, and that direction is south. Okay. And this Sepulveda Dam basin is really big. There's a lot of hiking that takes place, which I'll be speaking about in a minute. A view of the river from the top of the dam, where I was climbing, I probably shouldn't have been. This channel is concrete lined, as is much of the LA River. Friends of the LA River would rather see it restored to a more natural state. Okay. And that's been one of the challenges with the Friends of the LA River, which I can try and get to in a minute. And this is where things get natural. Okay, so it's on the other side. This is more natural, no concrete lining. You can see some brush. You can see some rocks and gravel. This is kind of where the concrete structure ends and the water begins to flow into more of the green area. This view is on the other side of the bridge. Okay, this is the floodplain forest of the Sepulveda Dam basin taken from the top of the dam. What a landscape. Yeah, so when it does rain, there's a lot of green and people love to hike around here. It's really quite lovely. Okay. One of many trails that winds its way through the floodplain forest. Look around you and you're bound to see a rabbit run across the road. And in fact, I did, but it was so fast I couldn't get a picture. And there's lots of different kinds of brush in the forest, so it's really great for a nature hike if you want to learn about the flora and fauna of Los Angeles. The floodplain forest up close. Can you believe this is a dam basin? Woo, look at all that beautiful greenery. So we must have had some rain that day, or that year. A peaceful shady trail because there are lots of trees in the area as well. So you can see how many people actually hike around here because of the trail. And all you'll hear is the sound of birds and the occasional rustle of bushes as a rabbit or lizard run by. Darn, but they're too fast for the camera, and they really were. I tried. No matter how you look at it, all roads lead to the LA River. The end. And that's really it. So I was just using some mat board for the covers of the book. And the back there is pretty plain. And since it's, been around for a long time, there's some marks that are happening on the back here. But other than that, that's my book. My first ever book that I ever bound in my life. Oh my goodness. So I thought it'd be fun to share this little first ever attempt at hand binding a book. The Sepulveda Dam Basin Exploration Book. It was really fun. I'm glad I had such a wonderful teacher who allowed me some creative freedom to approach the project in a way that made sense for both me and my partner. Not only did I take these photos for the class, I also did an audio tape. Yes, a cassette tape. I'm really dating myself now. I made an audio cassette tape of walking around so my partner could hear it since he couldn't be there. I didn't feel it would actually be safe for both of us to be walking around, especially because I had a plan to be walking in areas that we really weren't supposed to access. But he listened to it afterward, and he had a great time hearing the sound of walking in the forest and the crunching on the trail. And we submitted the book and the cassette tape, and my partner did more research and did a report. And we handed it all in to my geography teacher, and he loved it because it was sort of like this extra sensory experience in the assignment. So that's my very first ever hand-bound book, a kind of stab stitch, found in an early Martha Stewart magazine. So thank you so much for stopping by, for tuning in, and listening to me share one of my early memories of an early hand-bound book. I hope you had fun, and I hope you'll stop back again soon. Thanks so much. I'll see you again.